Hi, it's Chrissy Miles, and you're watching The Chrissy Miles Show, where I teach you how to take eternal truth and produce extreme results. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to remove the shame of underperformance. Whenever we set out to achieve something in our lives, we will inevitably have setbacks. I've lost businesses, jobs, suffered miscarriages, struggled in my marriage, and all of those perceived failures added up over the course of a life can make somebody feel like they're just weighing down on you really heavily. And those things will try to convince you that you're a failure and that you don't amount to anything. But I want to teach you how to finally remove the shame of underperformance and show you that you can get past problems and start living again. But first, subscribe to this channel and click the bell to get notified of more of my proven methods to get more out of life. Let's get started. Here's step 1. Don't let sin weigh you down. Hebrews 12:1 says this, "Therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race that's marked out for us." The phrase "to throw off everything that hinders" means in the original language to put off or lay aside or renounce weights, burdens, and encumbrances. So when we find ourselves in sin, remember, sin means to miss the mark, meaning that we miss out on the life that we could be having. When we miss out on the life that we could be having, we feel weighted down, we feel burdened. Whenever you see somebody living the life that you wish you could live, it feels heavy on you. And in a sense, you're experiencing sin in some cases. And in this case in particular, you would be experiencing a sin of jealousy, wanting to have something that someone else has. So Paul is writing to us and he's saying, get rid of all of these things, lay it aside, renounce these things. And then furthermore, he talks about the sin that easily tangles us up. The phrase "the sin that easily entangles" refers to failures that surround us and encircle us, or things that we become easily distracted by. So again, sin isn't as much about doing all of the wrong things as it is not living the kind of life that God would want you to live, and in fact that He's died for you to live and that He has empowered you to live through. So Paul admonishes us that if we want to run a race that is successful and get to our end destination successfully without a lot of baggage, we have to renounce the things that hold us back, and we have to get rid of the things that we're easily distracted by. You know, whenever anyone in our church comes forward for prayer, I always ask them this question. If you could overcome anything in your life right now that is weighing you down, what would it be? So I'll pose that question to you. Let me know in the comments below what one thing you wish you could overcome. Here's step number 2. Follow your convictions. In James 4:17, he says this, "If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them." So what that means is throughout the course of your days, your weeks, your months, your life, if you know the things that you should be doing and you don't do them, it becomes a sin for you. It becomes that burden that we were talking about earlier. So it's very, very important as you go through your days, your weeks, your months, your years to follow your convictions. When you live a life that is contrary to the deeply held beliefs that you have or your deeply held convictions, then you are going to actually start experiencing a weight and a burden on your life. So follow your convictions and you will feel less likely to carry the burden of not doing the things you know you should be doing. Here's step number 3. Accept that you'll never be perfect. Romans 7:15 says this, "I do not understand what I do, for what I want to do, I don't do, but what I hate, I do." I always found this passage to be so astounding simply because it was written by Paul. And when we think about Paul, we don't think about a person who is not doing the things that he really wants to do or doing the things that he hated doing. And yet Paul, a seasoned apostle, a man who saw and experienced Jesus face to face, who had heavenly revelations of the fulfillment of the law through the Messiah, said, even in his writings, "I still do the things that I hate doing." So so you have to be able to accept that you're never going to be perfect. And there is a way that you can overcome the shame of underperformance. Paul did that every day of his life, it appears, and yet he was known as one of the most influential evangelists, apostles, disciples ever to be in the Christian world. Here's step number 4. Even though you can accept that we are never going to be perfect, you can limit the effects of sin in your life. So Psalm 119:11 says this, "I have hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against you." Of course, these words were written by David, who had his own personal struggles, personal ups and downs. He certainly fell short in some major ways. And when Nathan the prophet came to David and told him the story that was an analogy about how he had actually had someone murdered, David said that this gentleman should be severely punished. But when Nathan revealed to David that this parable, this story, was in fact talking about David, this psalm was the result of David's mourning and his sadness at understanding what had happened in his relationship with God. And so he writes saying, "When I hide your word in my heart, it will help me not to sin against you." You can limit the effects of sin in your life by hiding God's word in your heart. You know what that does? In situations where you have choices to make, where you have difficult decisions that are looming in front of you, when you have God's word that is in your heart, His word will come forth, providing you direction, instruction, guidance, peace, a wisdom to make the right choice. And as you follow those words, it will prevent you from living a life where things are weighing you down, which is essentially what sin is, as we've talked about before. Limit the effects of sin in your life by putting God's word in your heart. For more tips on removing the shame of underperformance, I'm going to encourage you to go to our store and purchase a copy of our book, Good God, written by my husband, Lucas Miles. In this book, he's going to help you to understand the goodness of God and how you don't have to perform in order to get into His good graces. He loves you just as you are. So follow the link in the description and purchase your copy of Good God today. Here's step number 5. Let Jesus carry your burdens. I know this sounds a little bit cliche, but look with me, if you will, at Matthew chapter 11. Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now, read this with me in the Message translation. Here's what it says. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. You see, when you live your life according to religious performance, always trying to do the right thing, but always finding yourself falling short, you get tired and worn out. In fact, every time you try to live your life in a legalistic way, which means that you are trying to earn God's favor by the things that you do or the way you perform, it will wear you out. And so Jesus is telling us here, listen, understand how I work, and you'll understand how to rest. When you understand the burden that I carried for you, you will be able to move in what the Bible calls unforced rhythms of grace, meaning that God's favor and grace are flowing in your life in a rhythm, in a wave, in a river of opportunity that comes forward in your life, helping you to experience things that you couldn't do by your own performance. And I love how he says that if you keep company with Jesus, you'll find freedom and you'll be able to live lightly. That's what it means to cast our burden on Him. It's not just the sorrows and the pain that we experience that weigh us down, although those things do certainly weigh us down. But specifically, Jesus is talking here about how people who are living under the burden of religion, the burden of legalism, are the ones who need to pick up Jesus's yoke, understand what He came to do, what He came to deliver us from, and then watch Him, learn from Him all of the ways of His grace. Psalm 55:2 says this, "Cast your cares on the Lord, and He will sustain you. He will never let the righteous fall." Casting your cares on Jesus is more than just giving Him the burdens of the trials that you're bearing. He's certainly capable of carrying those things, But specifically in this particular passage, he's talking about people who are worn out and tired because of religion, legalistic tendencies that are trying to get you to perform, to behave a certain way, to meet expectations that other people have of you in order to be accepted or approved. He's saying, forget all of that. If you want to learn how to take a real rest, then learn how Jesus walks and operates in the unforced rhythms of God's grace. Thanks for watching today, and I hope you enjoyed these tips about how to remove the shame of underperformance. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, and if you know someone who constantly struggles with guilt and shame, share this video with them. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe to this channel for new episodes each Tuesday where I teach you how to get more out of life. Thanks for watching.